welcome. Today we're going to be talking about my Mob Psycho 100 Season 3. It was really good. It was my favorite Mob Psycho season, and I really loved the whole series. So Mob Psycho is about a kid that has super psychic powers. Like, he's super OP, but he wants to hide his powers. Um, But then he meets Reagan, who has a supernatural ghost experience business where he like does exorcisms and stuff. The only thing is that Reagan doesn't have spiritual powers, and he's lying about having them. So he sees Mob as like an opportunity to use him for his business, and he lies and is like, I'm your master and I'll teach you how to control your powers and stuff. But of course he can't. And then they just go and exercise ghosts and run into other psychics that are not as strong as Mob, but like he has to fight them. And then there's a lot of psychics in the world, and a lot of them don't use their powers for good, and Mob's like, don't hurt people. Um, so that's the basic premise. The characters are Mob, the main character. He's very apathetic and doesn't let his emotions show ever, and he just wants to suppress his psychic abilities. I really like Mob a lot. He's not just like a generic main character. He's got a lot of depth to him. He's scared of hurting people with his abilities, but just his attitude is so laid back and about everything and unemotional, and I can respect that. And then Reagan, the teacher with no psychic abilities. Um, Reagan's also one of my favorites. I love him. He's just like so arrogant and, has all this bravado and he can't even do anything. Um, there's Serizawa, who I had trouble remembering him. I had to go back and look because it's been a while since I watched the first two seasons. And he joins their business as well, and he does have psychic abilities too. He was a member of like a evil organization last season. And Mob basically befriended him, and he betrayed the organization, and then he started working with them. And there's Tome, who is in the telepathy club with Mob. She doesn't have any abilities, but she really just like wants to find some aliens and is really into the cult. And I love her. She's great. And there's Dimple, who is a one of the first ghost spirits that Mob encounters and has to exorcise. But then Dimple ends up like following him around, and they become friends in a weird way. But then in season 3, because of the huge battle last season, there's like a giant broccoli tree in the middle of the city, and everyone's like, it's from like a god or something. And Mob, of course, doesn't want to take credit because he's not about that life. But Dimple ends up becoming the god of this tree and betraying everyone. And then him and Mob end up fighting. But, he deep down, he's still friends with Mob and he knows what he's doing is wrong. So it's a really emotional battle. I love Dimple too. There's Ritsu, Mob's brother, who's also a psychic, but not as strong as Mob. And he's just a cool guy. There are the two Suzuki, the dad and the son, who come out and fight Mob in the last episodes. And the dad was the main villain last season. And then he was awful to his son, but his son ends up saving him. I also had trouble remembering them and had to look that up though. Um, and there's Teru, who was one of the first psychics that Mob had to fight that was like misusing his powers to bully others. And then they became friends and kind of rivals and helped each other um, improve. And there's Tsubome, the normal girl who was Mob's childhood friend. He used to show off his abilities in front of her, and he has a crush on her. So the characters, I'm gonna give a solid 9 out of 10. I love them all. There's like no character I hate. There's really great. I mean, they don't spend a whole lot of time developing all the characters, and there's a ton more, like the Body Improvement Club and all the members of the Telepathy Club, and I'm just mostly focusing on the main characters of season 3, and then the other 2 seasons they focus on other characters. So there's a lot of good characters. They did a pretty good job developing especially with Reagan and Mob in this last season. Um, this story, okay, so season 3, um, it starts with Dimple taking credit for the tree, and then Mob has to come stop him because everyone gets brainwashed, basically. So him and Mob fight. And then Mob starts losing his energy due to the tree, and it's like his life is in danger. So Dimple ends up like changing his mind from being the god of the world or whatever to saving his best friend, and ends up like sacrificing himself because he comes back at the end, but eventually. But it's just really cute how like he gives up his own ambitions for his friend. Um, then the middle of the season feels a little fillerish, but it was still interesting. Like the telepathy club goes to find UFOs and stuff. And then the end was just amazing. Mob gets hit by a car and gets fatally injured, and then this other being takes over him, and he goes crazy and loses complete control of his power. And everyone from like previous seasons, all the psychics come out to fight him, and he kicks their butts because he's more powerful than he's ever been before. And he just like destroys everything, and it's really awesome. And then finally Reagan is the one that snaps him out of it by finally like saying, "Oh, I've been lying this whole time. You're right. I don't have psychic powers and I was using you, but I really care about you." So they both develop so great, and Mob has to like accept finally his psychic powers, and that he shouldn't just neglect that side of him, and he should show emotion and be himself, and he like accepts that part of him. So it's really good. It's really well written. And then at the end, they just all have a surprise birthday party for him, and um, Tomei ends up working there as well, and I really like the ending. And oh, and he was gonna confess to Tsubome this whole time. Um, Even when he was like out of control, he just like has the flowers and is trying to go to her. Um, of course, she ends up rejecting him, but she calls him more and stuff, and they're hanging out more as friends. So I like that ending too. It's kind of realistic. He didn't just get the girl at the end, but they're like slowly developing to that, even though it's over, which is sad. But I thought the story was a 9 out of 10. It was great. The world is an 8 out of 10. I believe it's just like Tokyo with psychics in it. It's basic. It's fine. He destroys everything. It's a great time. Um, my best boy is Reagan. I love him. He's just so full of himself even though he has no abilities, and I like the way they develop him, and he really cares about Mob, and Mob just comes to him for everything. My best girl is Tome. I really just like her energy and her obsession with the occult, and she doesn't take crap from anyone, and I really like her. Um, so yeah, that's it. And I'm really sad that my Mob Psycho is over. What did you think about Mob Psycho? Please let me know, and I'll see you next time. Oh, and overall, I give it a 9 out of 10. I almost forgot that. All right. Bye.